So I'd like to, as I introduce the panelists, call them up and ask everyone to give them a round of applause. This room is a bit warm, so the applause is going to both energize Ethel and their couch as well. So to start, we have Jillian P from the Daily Maverick. P going for Yulia from Project Multatuli in Indonesia. And then we have Isabela Ponce from GK in Ecuador. Last but not least, and I'm pronouncing it properly, John. I kept practicing John from Turkey. Yes. So we're going to switch the projector off once everyone's taken note of the names and organizations, but we will do a bit of intros as we run through the presents. So guys, grab your mics and let's get this discussion going.
So firstly, introducing myself, my name is Bilal Randeree. I am with MDIF. This is the Libya Development Investment Fund. We are a soon-to-be 30-year-old New York registered non-profit, but we operate as a commercial condo. We do debt and equity financing for independent media around the world. I see lots of confused looks that yes, we actually invest in media with the intention of making a return on that investment, or having, or we do debt deals with media with the intention of getting those loans repaid with interest. We operate around the world. I won't get any of the stats. It's all on the website. I do want to dispel before I start that 3 of the 4 candidates have MDIF days. This was certainly not intentional. Ryan and Vic was situational on your side, but I found out after the panel was formed, MDIF is an investor in Daily Maverick since 2018. It was my client when I was the African director. We worked with Project Multatuli through our Africa Asia program. We've been an investor in GK since 2014. Thanks for that. And so John and I agreed this morning that we're soon going to find independent media in Turkey that we could look at possibly investing in. The topic for today's discussion is revenue and cost stream, lessons from publishers. So, we all know journalism is fragile generally, but even more so without financial independence. And so what we're going to try and do through today's discussion is dig into some real-world examples of how newsrooms around the world have solved the question of revenue and financial independence. I'm going to go through and allow the panelists to introduce themselves and their organizations briefly. Then I'll run a round of questions, but then we'll keep the second half of this panel for hopefully a robust discussion with yourselves as the audience. So first up, Jillian, floor to yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Bilal, for coming to our session, Les. Jillian Green, I'm editor at Daily Maverick. Daily Maverick is we like to refer to ourselves as starter. When we know stuff, about 60 years old, so more cautious is in a discussion. We have stopped about 115 people. We try and solve that solution of sustainability through our ad provide for both commercial and non-profit on business. Essentially what we're looking at is a B26 kind of model where we have 3 categories of revenue streams, each dealing with 2 kind of, I suppose, channels of funding that they take up. 6 can be paid ways, that's EP, which generate. It's a key categories of philanthropy from commercial tendered membership. And under each of those, then we had 2 different streams. In the philanthropy, you've got family offices and foundations. In commercial, you've got your advertisers, use events. And then under membership, you've got referring membership and what donations. And over that grouping of hosts in revolutionary. We hope to diversify so as not to carry well ATM on lost. I think that's key thing talking about media is ensuring that your case are not human boss. Because if one thing gets full, we don't want our page company to less. Make some comments better.
Right. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Yulia. I'm collaboration director at Project Multatuli. It is a public journalism initiative in Indonesia founded only 5 years ago. And then we covered stories on corruption, state violence, environment destruction, and also marginalized communities like indigenous communities who often fall victim to the government mining projects and infrastructure projects. So it put us in the cross hairs of government. We got some intimidation, digital attacks, and so on. But luckily, we still survive now. And we have a small team, only 18 personnel, including 2 journalists and 3 editors. But we work with 200 freelance journalists and photojournalists across the country. In terms of the business model, we try to diversify. Uh, but so far, the grants accounts for 65% of our revenue, and then 25% from our business, and 10% from membership. Thank you.
Thanks. Isabela?
Hi, my name is Isabela, and I come from Ecuador, and I'm the co-founder and editorial director of GK. GK is an independent media outlet. We do explanatory journalism, and some people find it redundant to say explanatory journalism because it's supposed to be. But the media landscape in Ecuador is very small and it's shrinking, and you have like big traditional legacy media doing breaking news and trying to keep up, and then very small investigative outlets. And we're kind of in the middle trying to give our audience the answers they need to understand the country, because Ecuador is like nowadays a multi-crisis country. We just elected a very authoritarian president. We have the threats of organized crime. We are still living the consequences of the pandemic in economical point of view. And actually yesterday it ended 30 days of protests. So we try to explain and contextualize everything that is happening. That's what GK does. We're also a small team. We're 15. And we have a diversified business model in which our main revenue source, that is 50% of our pie, is a content agency. It's called GK Studio. And then I have GK School, which is workshops mainly. We have grants. We have our membership and the commercial side. So we try to balance while keeping the work done. And I also want to share that we were supposed to talk about the context of our country a bit. So nowadays for journalism and journalists, it's been really hard. In the last 2 years, 20 journalists have been exiled of their cities or the country because of death threats from organized crime. And this year we have 1 journalist killed. So everything is happening very fast, and it's obviously a challenge from a journalism point of view, while keeping relevant, because even though we're small, we do have a very engaged audience, and it's large audience. So we are always trying to balance the quality content, with this context that I'm mentioning, remaining independent, and we were talking about that later, with this business model that allows us to do it.
Thank you.
John.
So, Isabela, you says you have just elected a very authoritarian media prince. We have been going through that since the last 2 decades. I jumped from Turkey, and I'm not a founder of any independent news outlet, but as a journalist and as a media scholar, I have researching them, their conditions, especially in Turkey, for a very long time, for at least a decade now. And I'm here to convey about what it is to pursue a sustainable, independent journalism in a country which ranks 159th among 180 countries, in which there used to be 16 journalists who were behind the bars. This morning there has been another raid, so we have now at least 17 journalists in prison, and somehow still independent journalism and independent media survives. So I'm here to convey the practices of different independent media outlets in Turkey.
Thank you for that quick round of introductions. So I'm going to start with you, John. I've been with MDIF since 2017, and for the better part of this time, I would always describe the work that we do supporting independent media in countries where democracy is under threat, where the freedom is being challenged, and more recently, it's become hard to isolate any country that doesn't fall into that list. Now, someone who's been a journalist and, as we said, now a researcher in Turkey, can you start with some optimism at the beginning of this panel of things that you see that might be working, that might be interesting signs towards allowing newsrooms to be building their independence and strengthening despite those crazy world we live in.
Yeah, I think next sessions will be about the capture of big tech and artificial intelligence, which the media still feels the strong grip, and the capture of the governments and the capture of the authoritarian regimes. We have been experiencing it for the last 2 decades, but somehow independent journalism still survives in Turkey, within the Turkish boundaries. I'm not talking about the media in exile. We have lots of outlets, Turkish outlets in exile, but in Turkey, it's again what other esteemed participants have told. It's about diversification of the resources. The diversification has been quite critical for Turkey because, we still have a lot of grant programs which are really very volatile. And in Turkish case, although some grants are available to you, it might not be a good idea for you to access that international organization because of some terror laws and because of some criminal prosecution issues. You might be treated as a foreign agent if you apply and get some of the international grants, first targeted by the pro-government media, which then totally turns into a prosecutor's plea, and that you might find yourself behind the bars. So yes, grants are available, but not every independent news organization is so keen on to get those international grants. Secondly, subscriptions. According to one of my friends who's in the room, who has been a founder of a great news outlet, Fine, in Turkey, they have estimated that around 250,000 people might pay for news in Turkey. But only in their subscription base, only 10% pays for it. So it's not sustainable at all. Editorials, some of the companies are really afraid of working with the agencies of those independent news outlets because they don't want their brands to be next to your news organization's name, definitely. And other than that, some philanthropy. Interestingly, still there is some philanthropy in Turkey, but those business people, some of them hide their names and give you the funds or money without mentioning them. So when it comes to accountability, it has some ethical and accountability problems. So how those news outlets still survive? Again, with all these resources combined with diversification. If you rely on big tech money, big tech's share, those small shares that they dedicate to you, Google ads, YouTube ads, then you will be left in the cold. One of the most prominent, real good investigative news websites, Gazete Duvar, that didn't rely on international funding because of ideological reasons and editorial choice, which had a low subscription base, had to shut down. It was really one of the most successful examples after Google has immediately changed its algorithmic structure. So we are now in the grip of government capture, but not on government capture, also the capture infrastructure capture of the big tech in countries where journalism is trying to survive. I think.
Well, okay, so much for starting optimistic. So let's keep this way down the panel. So Isabela, Latin America having a model that uses commercial revenues to subsidize the newsroom. Can you maybe dig a bit deeper into what is working well so well for you guys?
Yeah, I'm talking about GK because the context in Latin America is very different, and especially Central America is very grant based, and this is why this year has been a lot. So I was mentioning GK Studio, and I can talk about that has worked for us. It's only one of the 5 revenue streams, and that's important because we cannot rely 100% in only one. I think it might sound obvious, but we've learned through the years by iterating. And how did this idea came up? Because one day we had someone come up and said, like, I love what you do, the quality of the content, the storytelling, I want that in my brand. And we start doing these services, we call them, and then we saw that opportunity. It was 10 years ago, more or less. And we've worked with all UN agencies nowadays, NGOs, and they hired us because we have already the human rights focus and the gender focus. I didn't say, besides explanatory journalism, we don't do breaking news, but the focus, we do the environment, human rights, accountability. So we don't do, I don't know, sports or other topics. So we are specialized in that. And if, I know, UN Women wants to do this campaign, and they will come to us because we will do it better than our competitors. But that has been a job, trying to convince them and explaining about our content studio. And how does it work? So we have small team, but we divide the people that does graphic design and video and photo. We share that team, but the other contents, it's produced by a studio, so we don't mix journalism with that. And while preparing the panel, we were talking about how does it work, and there are tensions. Of course, there are tensions, but independence is what remains after all. And the thing is, like, because I'm also a consultant in this topic specifically, and I always state my other media in Latin America, like, try to think what is the thing that you do best in your media that can be somehow taught in services or in agencies, in order not to have the need to hire more people, but use the resources you had and, like, balance. So for me, that for GK has worked well, and I'm trying, every time I give these consultations, I explain this, and I've seen other successful experiences in the region.
Thank you. We'll come back and maybe dive a bit deeper into that. But Yulia, so you mentioned that 60% of your revenue, and I think this is based on something that came up in the earlier panel. I just want to clarify it. So it might be a debate, I don't know, but I think at least in recent years, the conversation has moved on. And when you talk about revenue, grants are in there as one of the many revenue streams. So you've got grants, you've got memberships, you've got advertising, etc., etc. So do you want to just speak a bit more about, in Indonesia, the type of journalism that you're doing with the audiences maybe not suited for leader revenue or memberships? How are you building financial sustainability for your newsroom?
Okay, thank you, Bilal. So I want to talk a bit about the membership. in general, Indonesia has low purchasing power and also low willingness to pay for news. Even like big mainstream media are struggling to cover their revenue in substantial amount from the audience. And in our context, there is also a bit sensitive topics. For example, we have like civil servants and businessmen calling us and asking, how do you protect your membership data? Because we want to support you, but we don't want government to know it. So there's this kind of issue. And the second one about the earned revenue, I think this is the most exciting one because so far it covers 25% of our revenue, but year on year it grows 50%. And the operation covers agency like you. We produce campaign content for NGOs. We also do collaborative reports with them. For example, the Greenpeace. We do event organizing, exhibition, launching of a product, live streaming, everything. And we also do training. There are some NGOs inviting us to be the vendor to do the trainings for journalists or activists on holistic security or journalism. So that's the operation. How we do it? First, there is a concept about the NGO being associated with our brand. For the context in Indonesia, you have to maintain a good relation with the government, even UN bodies, because once you being critical, they will expel you from the country, and it happened before. So they are being really careful about it. So when we engage in cooperation with this NGO, we offer wide level under a different name. So to make everything secure for them. And then how we do it as a small company with only 18 people. First, we invite our newsroom members to engage in these projects. For example, our journalists, our editors have served as speaker, trainer in our training, moderator, and also even our finance officer. He is very extroverted and he likes talks to people, and she becomes a great facilitator for our training. And we also provide them with extra fee for their work in the projects. The result is we can maintain our fixed cost of these projects. And the second, and I think this is the most important one, is we gain better employee job satisfaction. Why? Because they say that they get to earn more money. Second, they're exposed with different kinds of experience, break away from their daily activities. And the third one, to expand their skills. This is particularly important in Indonesia because in the last 2 years, there are more than 1,000 media professionals being laid off in Indonesia. So I imagine if something happened with our company, whether we are being shut down or don't have any money again to operate, at least they have these diversified skills that can help them to find another job.
Good, smart move. Before I come to Jillian, I should have mentioned for those that are staying in the back, there are a few empty seats in the front. So if you guys want to come settle down, after we get to the next question, we're going to move to the audience discussion. Don't all run at once, Jody. But there are a bunch of seats, yeah, that maybe you didn't notice. So Jillian, then Maverick's gone on to build, I think they say Africa's largest membership program, maybe one of the largest in the world. So, editor in chief, how do you balance
This growing real revenue, advertising revenue, events revenue,
with the challenge of maintaining the independence of your newsroom?
Yeah, our web project is sitting at about 30,000 members at the moment. These are people that are paying for news that is actually freely available. We don't have a paywall, so they don't have to pay for it. They can still read it even without it. So really there's something in that that they buy and need. And I think that's the mission of what Day in Epic is all about. Essentially to defend truth, to help people navigate life and to defend democracy. And so that has been a real bulwark against infiltration of courses through advertising, through the commercial law, is that have readers that are willing to pay for something that is free. The other aspect of what drives our journalism is the audience, right? The audience is at the center of the why we do the journalism that we do. It's not the commercial interest. It's not the grantor who is dictating what we will cover. Even in applying for grants, it's not, okay, here's a grant, I will pay to match our editorial output to that grant. It's rather, what is our editorial focus areas? Are there grants that support this? If not, I will find another way to do it, rather than trying to match. I think that's where when you start diluting what it is that you're all about, is when you're trying to match what you're doing to what money is available. And then thirdly, it's about innovation. If you are going to be able to keep your audience engaged, it's to figure out where they are. How do you reach them where they are? Recently, it's a work with journalism AI to develop a couple of different projects that engages with our audience. One of them is called DMC Connect, which is essentially a community-based platform where our readers can engage with us as the editorial team, but also with each other in that process. We're taking the conversation away from platforms like X and Facebook, where we had no real ability to engage with our audience in a meaningful way, where conversations just evolve into right slinging and name calling. We're now creating this platform where our readers can engage community to get help from each other to inform our journalism in meaningful ways. And so we'd come back to the question of editorial independence. It's about making sure that, again, what are your influences, understanding the why of what you're doing, and making sure that you hold that line. If you don't hold that line, you may as well just close that shop today.
True. I'm going to come up back to you with a follow-up question. Did I only get a show of hands? We can take, I think it's supposed to be a mic rowing. So what we'll do is we'll take questions in batches of 3. And so I saw 2 hands going up there at the same time, and then 1 year. So let's do so it's 2, and then the 3rd year, and then we'll do another round of questions. And then you just mention your name, your affiliation, if it's relevant, when you ask a question. Is it not fun? I think there's an issue that might...
So, my name is Abigail Oweze-Desika. I'm from Nigeria, Lebanon. So, I might have 2 questions. One for the analyst from Indonesia. You said that you can't be critical of governments. So, how do you balance public interest with this style of journalism? Then another analyst got talked about explanatory journalism, saying it's in between breaking news and investigative journalism. I also want to be enlightened on how explanatory journalism is similar or different from the interpretative reporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us take one more question and then we'll do answers to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this interesting panel, and I can see so many people are interested to know. My name is Abar Nader. I'm an Afghan journalist, and I run a media outlet that called Sun Time. They cover human rights in Afghanistan. So my question for the panelists is you all speak of different, diversified revenue and different streams. My question is about what do you prioritize in terms of if you're a small organization? I understand that some of you have been around for a very long time, and I have heard that the work and great work that you're doing, very inspiring. But I want to know if you're like a newsroom with maybe 5, 6 journalists, and you're operating in an environment where your direct readers for reading you don't have the ability to pay you. In those contexts, how, like, what do you prioritize in terms of like which revenue do you focus on most, and how do you focus and balance that work? Thank you.
Thanks, Zahari. You pass the mic over this way. So while we're waiting for the mic, why don't we go? Edith, you want to take the first question? Yeah.
So in terms of our investigations, we're still being very critical towards the government, and it costs us being labeled as authoritarian as well, and being hacked, and sometimes government use online trolls towards us, and also divulging the personal data of our members, our journalists, I mean. And so far we are surviving, but when we do cooperation with other NGO, that's where we are be careful. If the NGO decided that please be use white label, we are okay with that because we know the situation and the risk associated with it.
So basically, you're not putting your low, your brand on the services worth that you're selling to the clients, right?
Yes, and we have two entities. The first one is Foundation. We mainly use Foundation for our journalism works. And then the second one is a limited company for our business operations.
Thank you. Isabela, do you take a question? That was...
I'm not sure what interpreted reporting is, so I'm not sure if I can answer the question. But and explanatory journalism is not a word. It's not a word. It's just, I'm trying to explain what do I do, but it's not like a category of journalism. It's just in the last year, you've seen how social media prioritize breaking news that have like 1-2 paragraphs because they want to publish the faster they can. We all do that. So something happens and we wait and we start reporting of it. We publish that day, but with interviews and the context it requires. So a Marsha can really understand that. That's what we want to do. Like, if any of you could read the pieces are in Spanish, but you can translate and you can understand. For instance, if you talk about the city, you explain where it is. It's very basic, but we have lost that in journalism. That's what I feel, at least in my country. So this is what I meant.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to Zamra? What do you prioritize when you have a small newsroom, limited resources?
Yeah, we weren't always as big as we are now. And at even our newsroom, we still feel the pressure of having to decide what it is that you're going to cover. And so we use a process of editorial themes, which we have identified through surveying our newsroom and their personal audience, or what kind of issues most matter to me. And so at the moment, we have 4 themes: age of accountability, which would relate to your investigative journalism that you do. We've got Sustainable World, which is really focused on climate and social justice issues. We've got learning and job creation, because education and employment are key issues within South Africa. And then the last one is safety and belonging, which is related to crime, security around, which is another key issue that facing not only our newsroom, but also the audience that we serve. And so looking at those themes, we then try different formats of journalism. Explanatory journalism, which is like, how does this affect you and how we can navigate it? And a perspective, which is about giving the context, understanding, how to understand why this is happening and what you can do about it. And then analysis, which is, as it says, it's analyzing particular issue to give you more understanding, to give depth to the very pop statements that get made by politicians or government or business officials, and to say this is why it matters to you.
My question more about like, yeah.
Which revenue stream that you haven't opened should you prioritize open? So let me then take advantage of myself speaking on the mic to reflect on, like, I was there when Daily Maverick launched the Maverick Insider.
And one of the comments being thrown around at the time then was, this is not going to work because Africans are not going to pay for stuff on the internet when it's free. And yes, it's not paying for stuff on the internet because it's not paywalled anyways. But this idea of, can we get people to put money into something, and how will we do that, is a question that we have to figure out. I remember one of the discussions with some of your colleagues back in the day was, let's offer people the things that we think they're going to want. So it was the hoodies and the caps and the tote bags with the Dairy Maverick brand, because it's quite recognizable. But when they actually started discussing with the audience in the surveys, what are the things that you would value if you were able to pay a certain amount, and it was access to the ability to leave comments. This was the time the comments were shut down. And so when you could get somebody's credit card details or payment details and you had a transaction with them, you don't have to worry so much about the moderation of the comments, because people are self-moderating, in terms of respect to following the rules, because I've paid 100 Rand or 50 Rand, whatever it is, to contribute. So I guess the point I was responding on behalf of Jillian, the industry, or something to add is, firstly, you can't take any assumption of, yes, because we're in a poor country or the economy is weak, there is no money. There's money, there's trade, there might be other ways, number one. And number two is, nothing that works in the Daily Maverick, or it's like, oh, the New York Times is doing it, the Guardian is doing it, so we should do it. No. If the New York Times and the Guardian and the Daily Maverick is doing it, if it doesn't mean it's going to work for you, you have to do the research in your context and figure out what is going to work for you. And that's how you go. So, Jillian, please.
Yeah, sorry. As quite all about market context, really. For us, the membership program is a program that we want to really focus on. It's something that we can control. You can't control the appetizer, you can't control the brand maker in this, but in terms of membership, we can engage with that audience directly. And so the way we do that is through newsletters. It's through, again, why do you need to support independent journalism? Understanding what the role of media is in society. And creating that relationship while we're relevant in your life. If we're not relevant today, it's not we just focus. And the way we try and encourage them to pay something's experience, we do have partnerships with commercial enterprises like the big grocery store when we first launched a membership program, donated 200 Rand vouchers to each member. So the member would sign up to us for that brand, and in response, they'd get 200 Rand grocery voucher. We combined with Uber for the same kind of a deal. Sign up with the Insider, and you get 200 Rand vouchers on your next Uber ride. And so finding that value add into your membership program is really key.
Thank you. We'll take 1, 2, and then third question there. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Alekuskevich from Hungary, and I have a question in connection with the micro donations, because sometimes the people want to donate a certain amount of money to the media, but they have the feeling that they buy the right to be an editorial member of the outlet as well. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, MDIF, an independent site, just published a very critical article with an opposition leader of a municipality, and tremendous amount of people, subscribers, just commented that, okay, this was the last day that I supported financially this outlet, because this outlet was not critical on that specific day with the government, but with an opposition party and an opposition politician. The question is, have you experienced something similar in your practice, and how can you be resilient, or how can you counteract with this kind of threat that your subscribers won't support you in the future? Thanks.
So that's actually the question. So while you're passing the mic back, I'm going to ask Jillian to maybe respond.
Yeah, I mean, one just has to look at Gaza, Israel as one of the key issues that has really impacted our industries. When we are critical of the Israeli government or Israeli position, we would get those emails. That's it. I'm done. My subscription, my membership cancelled right now. And at the end of the day, we've got a responsibility to say, okay, that's the way you feel, but here's the body of work that's you've been bringing in this particular. It was often online media sources, you're seeing the one article, you're not seeing the whole. So then it becomes difficult. Again, rather I use you than to really weaken my editorial independence and the editorial work that we want to do.
Okay. Anyone else on this topic? Yeah.
Just I don't agree because even our membership is small, it's just the regular audience that's always complaining. So I think that's part of the job. And when you lose followers, you gain followers. So you're accused of everything the whole time. So I've been.
It's a good place to be when everyone hates you. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ertuna. I'm a freelance journalist from Azerbaijan, but I'm based in Istanbul, Turkey. And my question is to John, but also to anyone on the panel who would like to answer that question. It's about the earlier comment about existing funding models and media platforms taking or not taking foreign grants. So in countries where you do not have an audience that can physically pay subscription or doesn't have the culture of paying subscription or is restricted by existing legislation that would make them a foreign agent or of extremists and whatnot, doesn't it also fall on the shoulders of funding organizations, funders in general, to actually change the ways they provide the support and also the sort of flexibilities that need to be created in order to address the current environment in which in so many autocratic countries, journalists are trying to continue to do their job? Thank you.
Go ahead, John.
So, I mean, lately when I was interviewing an unofficial interview with one of the news outlets' editor-in-chief, and he or she was about to apply for another huge grant from a big organization in Europe, and he or she told me that they were even interfered editorially, like by that grantee organization. Why are you publishing those lifestyle stories? You should be pushing more for political comments. And that guy said, okay, this is how I get my Randeree from Google, how I attract audience interest. So, I mean, we should at the same time be critical about the general policies and the monitoring policies of those huge grantees and funding organizations, which is, I think, totally relevant according to your question and comments.
Anyone else on this question? Yulia?
So far, my experience, we have donors that provide unrestricted budget that we can use for our daily operations. And so far, my experience is really great. They do not interfere, but rather asking what programs will you do and what do you learn from that, your experience, and how it has progressed. But I also see my concerns about grants is that it's very uncertain. I will like in Indonesia, we have some embassies from European countries providing us funding for democracy, for journalism and everything. But from what I heard from one embassy, they are cutting the budget to Indonesia because of tension in European politics and with the US sanction and everything. So there are some international risks with that.
And that's not unique to Indonesia. We've seen over the last couple of years, many governments or the funding media
withdrawing because their priorities are closer to home, so to say. Well, security, but also funding media in then one specific country, but the coordination doesn't seem to stack up because now you're hearing reports of too much funding be available for the media that are out there. So I think there must be on the agenda a whole separate a session calling the funders to account and preparing feedback for them is something we should get to. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, just on funders trying to influence how your editorial goes. What are the rules that you put out there, Maverick, is that as a funder, be it a commercial funder or an NGO or foundation, is that you actually can't take part in our journalistic events. So if we have gathering, which is one of our big events, and a big bank sponsors it, that banks can't be on pass. And that's a way to try and make sure that you maintain that core indicators.
Right. So you set up the rules ahead of time, and so there's no discussion or debate later. Yes, question to that.
Hello, my name is Liana. I'm editor of an independent investigative media in Armenia. And my question, I have two questions. First one addressed to the moderator. Did you had a successful example of investment in investigative media outlet? Is investing reporting profitable in general? And the second question to all editors from media outlets, how you balance the subscription with the right of people to be informed? Because if you have if people have to pay for your content, this limits their right to be informed, especially in the countries where you come from. And in my country, people have no good level of reliability, etc. And there are no efficient law enforcement bodies, and sometimes the society rely only on journalists. And how you balance these two things? Thank you.
Thanks. So I'll take the question to me, and I will actually. Well, it's going to sound like I'm not answering it, but the answer is not a question for us. So MDIF's kind of bias is, by the time a media organization qualifies for our type of investment, it's already figured out a lot of the questions around its business model, what works, what doesn't work. So what I can say is, within our portfolio, we certainly have news outlets that do really factual investigative journalism, but they would not, I think in most cases, be described as purely investigative journalism outlets. So for example, within the Daily Maverick, you've got Scorpio, which is a desk which does investigative journalism, but in a way it's cross-subsidized by the bigger Daily Maverick media enterprises. So with regards to our specific experience, I can't really speak as authoritatively, but my own personal opinion on this is there's some types of media that if you're going to be purely one, like investigative journalism, for example, depending on the context, depending on the market, I don't think you can look at commercial revenue as ways of diversifying and reaching financial independence. However, what you should be doing is diversifying your sources of grant support so that when some government decides, okay, we're just turning off the tap, the whole organization doesn't suffer. And this is something which we've seen, this year, affecting many markets, many really impactful investigative journalism outlets, where they didn't diversify their grant revenue to that extent, and then, were the victim of one or two donors. But anyone else on that, or second question?
Yeah, the other question is, we don't have a paywall, so everyone can have a membership. So people pay to support our journalism, and it's available to all. So that would be my short answer.
We also don't put paywall, and some of our members are the ones who pay a lot, but sometimes they don't read our articles. They just want to support us and ensure people can read our stories. Just of the investigative journalism angle. Just recently, we've had a state where we hear a root official trying to bribe one of our journalists 60,000 rand to stop a particular investigation. We fought this on camera and put it out there. Because of the impact of that sting operation and what it says about our society, readers actually pay for it and double their contributions, make massive ones of donations that will now go forward to support other investigative journalistic projects. So I think it's, when you're doing those investigations, it's also to think of what is the impact that you're going to have in that. And if you can show the impact, your readers will find ways to support you.
Okay, so I'll just take a last show of hands. Yours has been going up for a while, so it's 1, 2, and then the third at the back. We've got less than 10 minutes. They're wearing a flag here, so let's try and be very brief and direct with your questions, please.
Hello, this is Oktay. I'm a journalist and media founder from Turkey. My first question is for Isabela and Yulia. is about, you said you are working, you're optimist keeping people, and you're sedating people, and you are doing all the studio work, content studio, like commercial activities for the third parties, and the journalism you are doing. Would you be sustainable today with all those things you are doing? And if not, you buy your separate fair salaries. And if not, do you see a future where, as an independent media company, that you work, I imagine, that night would be like a sustainable business, viable business in the future?
Thank you. Before we get to answer, can you just get the question behind you? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Gloria Nunez Oviedo. I'm working for independent media in Austria. And my questions concerns the membership models. Do you maybe have any key learnings or insights in how to grow your membership revenue and how to mobilize and grow your audience and members?
Thank you. Zeba?
So as I mentioned, grants are part of the business model, but through many years, it was like 15 to 25% very low. Why? Because we know it's uncertain and we don't trust like that and Ecuador has never been a country that received so many grants. But last year, that was this massive safety crisis and political crisis, the grants saved us. Like and this year it has been like leveled. This is why the justification is so important. But I wish that we could have no grants in case to make the point that, okay, this is a successful business model. I still think it is possible to have a sustainable business model, having this support from time to time of grants. But I think we live in the world is just, the countries are just upside down. But I trust that everything can change in a good way, and the audience is the answer. That would be my answer, because I see grants as this complementary, and when you need it. But I think the problem has been for so many years rely on in so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
We do a very conservative financial model. For example, other business only need 3 months of saving to survive. But for us, we keep 12 months of our saving that enough to sustain us for 12 months. Why is that? Because of all the risks surrounding our industry and also our country condition. So if I imagine if the grant cut today, we can survive for 12 months and then finding another grant or develop our business while also pricing our spending. Perhaps we don't do a really costly investigative stories for some more.
So that's quite impressive, having 12 months runway on your end. Congrats. Jillian, the question on your shoes.
Yeah, I very but I think it's important that you connect to the audience and to feel that relationship, what you can bring us and what you be. And you do that to understanding what is it that I need, not necessarily what I want. Was those two things are very different. And then it's communicating with them in multiple different ways, through newsletters, through events, through letting them engage with your journalism, not dictate for journalism, but engage with it in meaningful ways. And I think that's the way to really grow membership. What we need help with, and I'm sure others are working with membership program, is the technical side of things, which can then frustrate your membership work, which is around cards going on hold. It's something that we've been battling with for years, is that, your reader has gone to the trouble of signing up and then their card gets out of date. And then to get them back in is a schlick. So any magic calls here, please let me know.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to have time for one more question. You got the mic?
Thanks. My name is Yulia, please, and I'm with the Entrepreneurs Maverick. I have a question on Safio. So what's the record to Safio between Editorial and then Grammy making and operations? And also, is tech pushes beyond savings? What are the right ways to keep running from good years to really bad years for your organizations? Who wants to say yes, Terry?
So I'll start. In terms of our stock breakdown, we are in 5% editorial and the remaining on the commercial side. And that was really set up intentionally. All money that is generated goes maybe back into the news to just support the journalists. Then in terms of
Well, a little bit good years and versus bad years. How do you say? How do you say? Do you write the back account?
yeah, so one of the things that we're looking at to future protect ourselves is we're setting up the endowments. That if you're trying to forward pay now, and hopefully 10 years time we'll be in place where we'll be able to feed it back without being reliant on advertising and membership and all the other avenues.
Anyone else?
About the team. So we have that newsroom, only news and journalism, 5 people. Then we share resources. So 2 graphic designers, 2 photographers, videographers, 2 IT people, the CFO, the project manager. So the rest of the team is shared. And I was talking to her recently that there are a lot of tensions there because you need to deliver to the client, but you need to publish. So it's a lot. But the thing is, we don't do breaking news. And in the former panel, someone was saying how every piece, even it's a reel or an infographic in Instagram, for us has to be worth it. It's not like we publish a lot, but we publish good. So if I have some to deliver a project of GK Studio for tomorrow, I know that from the newsroom, I'm not asking the art team for an infographic today. So I'll do a reel. So we kind of balance. That's how it works.
Thank you. On that note, we are out of time. I would encourage all of you to track down and harass the panelists over the next day and a half. Grab whatever knowledge and learnings you can from them. But for now, please join me in giving them all a big thanks and now.